has added more to the after-death scenario than any other tradition prior to it.
Though Christianity has.
Yeah, but they don't have a great detailed account of literally what takes place. And what I find fascinating is work like of Raymond Moody's Life After Life and different books. And I actually at 17 went to see him lecture.
That's interesting.
And I got interested in near-death experiences because that's really kind of what I had. And I find it fascinating that many of the experiences that people have are very similar to what has been defined by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as what happens after death. And one of the signs of the latter days of the human experience, according to the Islamic tradition, is that people will be brought back from death. This is in the hadith literature or the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ.
But actually, we will get towards the what Islam says in terms of the hereafter, but I'm just keeping track of your story presently, and so that after this moment, of this defining moment, if I may put it, you looked at Islam because you were studying.
I was just looking at various religions. I was looking at different traditions, and particularly with this after death. And, you know, Islam, it's changing now, but this is 1977, probably 76, 77, prior to the Iranian Revolution and what was happening then. And Islam is just, you know, it's the last place people look in the United States, traditionally.
Were you up in San Francisco?
I mean, you'd look at Hinduism, Buddhism, probably Shintoism or Taoism before somebody think about looking at Islam. You know, because there's just such a negative stereotypical image of Islam and the Muslims. And it's also, there's this incredibly anti-intellectual backlash that, I mean, Islam is what one of my father's friends, who was a lawyer, educated person in this country, they were just in conversation and mentioned that Islam was an idiot's religion. And my father said, well, you know, my son's a Muslim actually, and I don't think he's an idiot.
Well, that's interesting. But you see, you brought up another topic which needs some reflection here, and that is that you said the impression of Islam compared to other religions is so terribly negative. Of course, there is a reason for it, and I don't know.
It's historical, and there's a lot of reasons for it, and certainly the historical tension that existed between Christianity and Islam for centuries. I mean, Gibbon, who penned the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, said that the debate, he termed the war between Christianity and Islam as the Great Debate. And so that Europe has always felt the pressure of Islam at its borders and has had several wars with the Muslims over the centuries. But I think that that what's happened in the West is that religion in general has a negative. It has a negative perception, and part of it is you know, the Enlightenment period of recognizing that religion by and large is fairy tales. I mean, this is something, and this is what a lot of modern research has clearly shown, that we're dealing with mythological conditions. In which books were written and pre-scientific, pre-rational, magical worldviews were presented.
Yeah, but that's only one aspect of it. I mean, one can look at that argument and say, well, yes,
it's a strong argument, though.
It is. It is partly there. But I don't think that one can dismiss the entire, you know, substance of any faith by saying that this is what
a lot of scientists do. A lot of modern people do. I mean, I think that's one of the refreshing things about Islam, is that Islam it's really kind of freed religion from a lot of pre-Enlightenment thinking. I mean, Islam to me is in many ways, it's radically postmodern in its approach. Because,
well, again, because you use the expression postmodern, you're falling into a debate again of semantics and whether that term which has been coined is valid in terms of applying to Islam. However, if you examine the polls that are generated, one of the recent polls that I saw was from Pew Foundation or what have you, and in that poll they said that 95% of the people in America believed in God, and a substantial number of them believed in religion. If you took those
well, this is fitrah. I mean, belief in God is an inherent part of the human creature. I mean, we're stuck with this, whether people like it or not. This is something fundamental to our being, is that from the time a child is little, it's looking for the cause of things. It's asking, why did that happen? What made that sound? What did this? I mean, this is something you see, search for cause. And ultimately, the great question is, how did we get here? What is all this stuff? I mean, where did this flesh and blood come from? Where did this incredible synergistic biological species come from? You know, where did this eye, who designed the eye? Because we obviously see the form and function of the eye very clearly, and it would indicate that there's some type of intelligence behind the thing.
No,
So I think people reject this statistical, billions of years of random cosmic.
No, I think that whole theory that science has advanced, that given the right set of circumstances, the world can create itself, is by and large rejected on the basis of what you just said, either fitra or intuitively people rejecting this whole notion. So I think that is becoming more and more clear.
But religion, the belief in religion, ultimately, to use the masses as some kind of justification for religion, I think is not really, most people don't know anything about their tradition. I would grant it that most Muslims don't know about their own tradition. And this is what I meant about Islam being radically postmodern, is in the sense that one of the things that Islam confronts you with is, why are you the way you are? I mean, you're just a product of the culture that you were born in. And this is something that I became aware of, at an early age, is the only reason I'm a Christian is because my parents are Christian. The only reason
it's a congenital condition.
It's a congenital condition, and I really haven't given it a whole lot of thought. I mean, I was taught that there's a Santa Claus. I was taught that there's an Easter Bunny. Had I grown up in Sri Lanka or in, it would have been something in West Africa. They call it girfaf. They scare people. Instead of the boogeyman, they say girfaf. It's this, bear-like creature that comes out and snatches little kids that don't do what their parents say. So, I mean, you're going to be defined by this cultural environment you're in, and this historical productivity, that we see that produces people and their worldviews is something that the Quran says, think about this.
Yes, no, I think that...
Should you just be following this thing just because your parents are doing it?
No, I think that aspect of the spirit of rational inquiry that the Quran emphasizes to the nth degree, it's something which
what I'm pointing out here, I think, is that it's looking at something, not just rational inquiry, it's looking at something really, really deep here, which is, who are you? Mm-hmm. How did your being get formulated to the point where you have all these ideas and opinions? I mean, have you really given these things a lot of thought? I mean, this is late 19th century. This is Nietzschean. This is late 19th century, early 20th century Heideggerian questioning about one's, Heidegger called it your throne-ness, right? But I mean, it's fascinating. The Quran, Ibrahim, the prophet Abraham in the Quran, when he points out the stupidity of worshiping idols, and at one point they say to him, well, who broke the idols? And he said, the big one did it. And they said, the big one can't do anything. He said, well, then why are you worshiping them? They can't do anything. And then it says in the Quran a beautiful expression, raja'u, it says they return to themselves. Right. In other words, hey, he's got a point here. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And suddenly this is the vista opening up. Yeah. And they chose to not follow it. They said, this is what we found our fathers doing. Mm-hmm. And that is a radical... The other
paradigm shift, actually.
It's a paradigm shift.
Right.
And you can either go with it or become the Inquisition that wants to put out anybody that's forcing you to have to think about, the radical implications of the new paradigm that's emerging.
Mm-hmm. Now, we were pursuing this journey of yours. Now you have just had a defining moment or experience, and then you